Hey guys, Will Terry here, and today's video is going to be called Are You the Perfect Art Student? And before I get going on that, I want to talk to you about this little guy, this sketch wallet. And if you have been online on social media, you might have already seen this. A bunch of other artists have kind of shared this on their social media and also on the Kickstarter for this. This is one of the coolest things that I've seen in a long time. And what it is, it's a regular wallet. It's got a really cool little logo on there. And, before I get into this, I might mention, I don't usually do advertisements for products and stuff, but one of the reasons is I get asked to do it all the time. And they're usually for like closet organizers or art supplies that are just general, and you guys know where to find art supplies, and I don't want to clog up videos with that. The reason I'm doing this one is because it's just freaking cool. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but it is one of the coolest things I've seen for artists. And what it comes with is this little sketchbook in here, and I did a little sketch in there, a little pencil sketch. And so anyway, it comes with this little refill of paper here that you can get. And one of the coolest things about this is that when you have this, you're going to never leave home without a sketchbook, because inevitably conceivably you won't leave home without your wallet. So it's one of those things where you don't have to remember to take one extra thing. You're always going to have your wallet with you. Now, this thing it's small. It's not going to replace your regular sketchbook. What this is, I think, for me, is it's the opportunity to never, ever be without the ability to doodle, to draw something. I'm in the doctor's office. I'm at the airport. I'm somewhere or I've forgotten to take my sketchbook, and whoops, I've got this one with me. It's one of those things. I'm probably going to take a lot of notes in this too, make lists. I'll always have a piece of paper to write down my phone number. I mean, there's a million uses for this. And anyway, I've got my cards in there. It's got a place for stash your cash. And I even have back here, I've stashed in this little spot my business cards for SVS. I had to plug SVS too. And some extra stashed cash. So I'm going to be using this wallet from now on. Again, it's one of the coolest things. And if I didn't think it was cool, I wouldn't be sharing it with you guys. There's a Kickstarter for this. There's only a few days left. Obviously, if you're coming to this video later than that, it will already have been ended. But the cool thing is you're not going to find this in Walmart. You're not going to find this at Target. You're not going to find this probably at your art store unless this is by Ralph Thomas. And if he gets them into art stores, that'd be really cool. But if he doesn't, then you're going to want to support that Kickstarter. And he has a stretch goal. You'll notice that there's a little pencil up here that I've stashed in here to draw with. Now, this is a little pencil, and it's not going to be the most ideal long pencil. But the idea behind this, I think, is that you'll probably take a drawing instrument with you if you're really going to be into sketching that day. And this is kind of a backup. So you can just kind of tuck that in there. And I think he has a stretch goal. If you reach $40,000, he'll throw in a pencil too. So anyway, sketch wallet, and it's on Kickstarter, and I'll link it right below. Okay, let's get to today's video topic. And the reason I came up with this is that there's a lot of people right now that are trying to decide whether they're going to go to art school or whether they're going to do school online or a combination of the two. And I'm starting school in 2 weeks, I think, at UVU. I'm teaching I teach there, and I'm going to teach an illustration class again this semester. And one of the things that I notice is that some students are much more advanced than others. Some have better attitudes than others about certain things. Some come more equipped than others. I realize that there's a group of students out there that will be watching this, that this will not affect them at all, because sometimes you're not in a place where you can actually receive information. Sometimes, people just, I might be coming up with this list here, and you might think, well, that doesn't apply to me. And actually it really does, but you're just not ready to understand that yet. So I realize that. There's also the people that I'm really talking to in this are the people who are kind of on the edge and really want to do whatever they can to become a better student so they can get more out of their experience at school. But also beyond that, because you're never not an art student if you're an artist. So with that, I'm just going to go through these. I've got 10 things that I think will make you a better art student. In fact, maybe I should put that in the title. Are you the perfect art student? Top 10. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, so the first one is you are a student for life. Okay? And that means that you understand that it's not about the 4 years that you're in art school. It's not about the online classes that you're taking that, when you're finished with school, all of a sudden you're just going to be amazing. I think that any professional illustrator or artist or animator is going to tell you that they've never stopped growing, that they're constantly looking to improve, and that improvement has taken place over, unfortunately, many, many years. So it's something that, what art school really does for you, in my opinion, is it really gives you the rules, it gives you the principles, and then it also gives you the ability to critique your own work, or to at least get to the point where you're starting to get good at critiquing your own work, or you understand what you're looking for and what's not good. That's one of the hardest things, I think, for students, is not knowing what sucks about their work. So that's what the purpose of art school is. The rest of your life is for getting better. And so being a student for life, super important to get that mindset that it's not over. It's never going to be over. Number 2, the perfect art student is happy for the success of his or her peers. And the idea that giving a compliment or seeing someone else receiving a compliment for their work does not diminish your work at all. And giving compliments to other people and liking what they're doing and thumbs upping and patting them on the back and giving them, verbal critiques and stuff, verbal compliments, does not take away from you. Just because you lift someone else up, it doesn't mean it pushes you down. It lifts them up, and then they're in a place where they can help lift you up some. So that's another thing, another aspect of the successful art student, is that they are not afraid to give a compliment. When we tend to go the opposite route, whatever that's called, when you are afraid, that tends to diminish you as a person. It tends to diminish you in your effectiveness in so many other aspects. And it really becomes a selfish lifestyle to worry that by someone else getting ahead, they're going to take something from you. And it really goes back to that abundance mentality, that there's enough for all of us, especially if we help each other. And I really fully believe that. And I've seen that in effect. And if you haven't watched the movie called The Secret, I really believe in that. I think some of those people get a little new agey with that, for me, but I really do believe in that. I believe that what you put out there in the universe will come back to you. And if you put negative vibes out there, that's going to come back to you as well. So if you're withholding love, then that's going to probably come back to bite you. Okay, number 3, the perfect art student learns about art history and illustration history, and learns about what's been done in the past. Okay, and if you think about it, what if there was an innovator right now working on a little pad of paper? Maybe it's yellow, and maybe there's some kind of a semi-sticky non-residue glue that they're going to put on the back so that you can post these notes up on your refrigerator or anything. And then they take it to market and they realize someone else has already made Post-its. I mean, that's kind of a gross analogy or a story, but that's really what will happen with your art. If you don't look to the past and see what's done, you'll repeat history, but you also won't be able to take from history and borrow from it, recombine it with some new idea that you've come up with, and then come up with something original. It's really hard to create in a vacuum. You really need inspiration, and that inspiration should come from the greats that have come before us. And so that's one of the reasons why when you go through an art school, every art school is going to make you take art history classes, and I included that in there because a lot of people going through online schools like our SVS or Oatley Academy or some of the others. To my knowledge, most of us haven't put art history out there. And in fact, we talked about that in one of our meetings the other day, is should we have an art history class? I'd love to know in the comments if you think that you would watch an art history class from SVS, if you're already subscribed to it. Because one of the things we talked about was it's kind of that bitter pill that you swallow because you're forced to swallow it when you go to art school. But would people actually do that on their own voluntarily, taking online classes? It'd be really interesting to hear your opinion on that in the comments. Okay, number 4 is hardworking, and that had to make the list, right? I mean, obviously, if you're going to get better at anything, you've got to be hardworking. Let's see. I'm trying to read my notes here. I always write notes, and sometimes they stump me. Like, what did I mean by that? Isn't content? Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah. So what I'm trying to tell myself here is that you're not. One of the signs that you're hardworking is, it's easy to just say hardworking. Well, I know what it's like. Hardworking. Anybody's been outside and dug a ditch all day, or I don't know, worked at fast food all day. I mean, that's hard work. That's not what I'm really talking about. I'm talking about with artwork. I'm talking about, yes, being able to stick with it for a long period of time, but also having the what do you call it? What would be a good term for this? I guess it would be being self-critical enough to analyze your work and determine that you can do better, and being able to pick it apart, being humble enough to pick it apart and to say, I know where I can improve this, and taking the time to go through and improve your work. A lot of times students will turn in work where they know where the problems are, but they've just run out of gas or run out of steam or just lost interest in the project. It's understandable. And if you've done that, I've done that. I did that in school all the time. Know that at some point you're going to have to start to slowly outgrow that and overcome that. And that's really the difference between the amazing top illustrators and the art students, is that the top illustrators know that they just kind of stick with it and they just kind of work. I remember working on a book one time, and it was the Three Little Gators children's book that I did, and I just remember telling myself my commitment level is going to be higher than it has ever been on any other book. And I promised myself, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to work harder on that book and make it a better book craftsmanship wise than all the other books that I had done. And I did. And at that time I was the most proud of that book. Since then I feel like I've moved beyond that, but being able to make that kind of commitment, I think that's the focus of hardworking. Number 5, make sacrifices. One of the things that you'll find as you improve your craft and as you improve your ability level in art is that you will be developing this rare commodity, and because it's your work, because it's your style, there's no one else that can do it like you. And so the cool thing is, what you're developing, you can't buy it with money. There are a lot of rich people out there that are going to want what you have, but they can't buy it with money. They can't. There's no shortcut to getting that ability to do that thing where other people go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you can do that. That is so amazing. It's like magic what you're doing there. And it is for people, just like any other craft is kind of magical when you watch somebody do something amazing. It can't be bought. It has to be bought with sacrifice. So by that, I mean, you've got to be able to make personal sacrifices in things like the friends that you hang out with, or the friends that you're going to do things with. If you have friends that, aren't hardworking and want to take you out of your game, maybe they want to, maybe they're luring you away from doing your work. and you know you should be doing your work because you've got a deadline coming up for an assignment in school, or maybe it's a personal deadline, and you know that you're just not getting it done. You know how it is, where you feel like you're going to accomplish stuff, and then things pop up, opportunities pop up. And it's good to be spontaneous, and it's good to say yes to those friends sometimes. But I feel like a lot of students get caught up in this lifestyle of they're always doing things with their friends, and this friend wants them to do that, and then this friend wants them to do that, and this friend. I flunked out of school when I went to college. The first semester I flunked out because I had a group of friends in every walk of life. I had my basketball friends, I had my swimming friends, I had friends that wanted to go hike the mountains, I had friends that wanted to do art, and and anytime somebody was going somewhere, the friends that like to go out to eat, I was just saying yes to everybody. What I didn't realize is they were saying no to a lot of those other friends, and they were just sticking with their groups. But I was like, oh, I'll go with every single group because I like to make friends. And I wasn't getting stuff done, and I flunked out. So make sacrifices. Say no to things. You've got the idea that on Friday night traditionally you go out and you do things and you have fun and blow off steam. Well, there's some times where you have to make the sacrifice for your art, where even if there's like this this thing that you normally do, sometimes it's healthy to say no to that and to work through and to dedicate yourself. There are stories in the past of artists that have, like Michelangelo staying up on the scaffolding until he got parts of his paintings done on the Sistine Chapel and things like that. How dedicated are you? How badly do you want this? It might be really good to do a study and to read biographies of famous musicians and artists that have accomplished great things and find out what their lifestyle was. In past videos I've said, and this is a speech that I give to my students at UVU, I say, how hard is it what is your idea of how hard it is for medical students, pre-med students that are on rotation in hospitals and stuff? How hard is their life? How much sleep do they get? And you can read blogs about them talking about getting 4 hours of sleep a night because they're just working constantly. If they're not memorizing stuff for their classes, they're on rotation. Well, the thing is, at the end of their studies, they have a job. The job is waiting for them. They're going to get paid. So they've got this, they know that cause and effect. I do this and I get that. You don't have a job waiting. So who should be working harder? Them, where they have this job waiting for them, or you, where you're competing against all these other artists? So that's what I tell my students is, if anybody should be working hard, it's you guys should be forcing yourself to work as hard or harder than a medical student. Okay? The next one is experimental. Okay? So a good art student is experimental, is not willing to rely on the things that have worked in the past. Experiments lead to failure. There was no pressure on me as a kid because I was a failure in school. I did horribly in the public school system. So I found that no one was really looking at me to be successful. So I was free to fail all the time. And I would try things all the time with art projects. And, I remember I had one of my dad's friends asked me if I could do calligraphy for some certificates that he had, and he would pay me, and he paid really well. And when I found out I could make that much money doing it, I was like, yeah, I can do it. I didn't know how to do it, but I just figured it out, experimented, got the equipment, and figured out how to do it, and got books and learned how to do it. And then I did his certificates for work, and they were crappy, but I guess I did a passing job on it. But be experimental with the kinds of things, the kinds of art you're doing. One of the ways that I'm kind of being a little bit more experimental now is, I've been known as the color guy through my whole career, and now that I'm doing these images for Comic-Con, and if you haven't seen those, you can go back, and I've got a playlist where I'll be updating my Comic-Con journey, and you can see some of the artwork that I've done for that in past videos. But it's all black and white, and it's all kind of crosshatch and stuff. And that was just a project that I just decided to take on and try. And I felt handicapped at first because I wasn't adding any color, and that's what I've always kind of relied on is getting interest and a lot of visual interest with color choices that I choose. And this really these characters had to function on design and value only, and that was a challenge. And I think it's pushed me in a good direction. And that's one thing that will help you continue to grow, is to not be afraid to experiment along the way. If you're in school and you feel like you've just kind of arrived and there's really nothing else for you to experiment with because you already know what you're doing, you're probably doing it wrong. Okay, number 7 is be humble. You've got to be humble. And one of the ways that you've got to be humble is you've got to figure, and I guess the analogy I would use on this is, imagine that you're given an instrument, like say guitar, and you're given a maybe a musical notation book, and it shows you fingerings and it shows you scales and things like that. And on your own, you pick up that guitar and you are going to self-teach yourself how to play that guitar, right? So you're playing along, and maybe you're playing for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you're getting to where you can actually play songs and stuff. The question I would ask you is, do you think that person that picked up the guitar and got no instruction has any bad habits or bad mistakes that they're making, that they've developed over the years? Are they perfect at playing the guitar? Are they using good technique? Or do they have things that are going to hamper them from going to the next level? My son plays guitar, and he was showing me a video the other day where a very prominent guitarist made a video on like the top 5 mistakes people have that are self-taught. So obviously that's kind of the answer there. Now, the question I have for you is, were you taught art in elementary school, junior high, high school, before you got to college? And I mean, when I mean taught by a master in technique. And I wasn't. I had a good art teacher in high school, but because of the way that it was set up, she really couldn't teach us anything, because there was always disciplinary problems. So we were basically just work on your project. And it was like whatever we wanted to do. And the ones that worked hard got an A. The ones that just did something. But we were never really taught any technique or anything. So the reason I put humble on there is, I think you have to get to a point where you have to say within yourself, even if you're the best in the class, I think you have to say that what you have been doing has led you to school. And the reason you're in school is because you're not a master. So if what you've been doing has led you to school, but what you've been doing on your own, you're probably doing a lot of it wrong. And one of the things that I find is that we get the kind of the big fish in the small pond syndrome going, where the top half of the class or the top third often doesn't want to change. And that's one of my biggest challenges. I see these students come in and they've got some really nice drawings, and I think to myself, it's a shame, because you're probably going to be the personality type that is going to be unteachable, is not going to be humble to receive the things that I'm trying to tell you. And what will happen a lot of times is that they rely on their good drawing, but their design is horrible. And that's a shame, because without good design, you're never going to become a master. And they just can't see it. They're better than everyone else in the class. They can see that, because when we put their work up there, it's obvious to them. And I can tell by looking at them that they're really proud of what they're doing. And they should be really proud. But they're not master artists. And that's why they're there, is to learn how to become master artists. And so with that, you've got to be able to just strip it away and listen. And one of the things that I find really common with master artists is they're always willing to pick up tips from other artists. They always are interested. They want to look over the shoulder. When someone's doing a master class or a demo, you'll see the master artist going, oh, okay, so that's what they're doing. Thinking, is there anything I'm missing that I might be able to learn or incorporate into my own work? So master artists have learned to become humble and learn new things. They're open to that. So as a student, you should too. Okay, number 8, makes friends and connections, networking. If you're going to school, and I've talked about this before in another video, actually probably in several videos, but if you're going to school and you're paying all that money for art school, one of the things you're paying for, and I think maybe even 50% of what you're paying for, is the being able to sit next to students that are doing the same thing or wanting to do the same thing that you are. if you're not networking and making friends, you're missing out on half of your education, because you will learn at least half of the material from those friends. The teacher says something. You're either absent that day, you're not really paying attention because you're drawing like you are now, right? Which is fine. Draw, and I can't listen to stuff like this without drawing. But for one reason or another, it doesn't resonate. You don't understand it. You're absent that day. You were drawing the hard part, and you just weren't focusing. And you didn't hear something. There's things that my friends told me in school that I don't remember the teachers ever saying, but they say, yeah, they told us to do this, and so they're telling me. Well, they wouldn't tell me if I wasn't their friend. So you're going to miss out on at least half of the stuff if you're not making friends. So you've got to do that, and make sure you make friends hopefully with the people that are better than you. That old adage, show me your friends and I'll show you. I don't know how it goes. Show me your friends and I'll show you what that person is like, right? If you're hanging out with the people that don't work hard, that are complaining about this, that, or the other, are never getting their assignments done, you'll probably be one of those guys. If you're hanging out with the people that are hardworking, you'll probably be hardworking. So make sure you make good friends. I feel like I'm your father, but that's weird. Okay, so what do I have? Oh, number 9, close. Yeah, this is kind of weird, but so I put close, like, and the thing there is one thing that I've noticed. Okay, and you feel free to disagree with this one. This is on the list, but I think there's some truth to it. So put it in the comments if you think I'm off my rocker on this one. But I think there's a correlation between the way someone dresses and the type of art student they are. In other words, if I go into the first day of school and I see someone dressed in black, they've got the uniform on, the art uniform, I call it. They look really hip, and everything is they've got the best clothes. They usually are never the best artists. I don't know how to say it any more plainly than that. The best artists are usually the ones that you never see coming. They're kind of unkempt a little bit, maybe sometimes, or they're just unassuming. They just are dressed kind of normal. And I would say, don't get caught up in that whole like dressing the part look. Nobody cares. At least if they care in school, they're the wrong people that are caring. The people that are going to care about your artwork, they're never going to see you. They're going to see your website. They're going to see the stuff that you've actually done. They're going to judge your artwork. So don't get caught up in the clothing thing. And from my experience, most of the time that's not illustrators anyway. Go to the graphic design department and you'll see the black uniforms, right? Or the photography students. Don't get me started. And then last but not least, number 10 is the best or the perfect art students are also teachers. We learn by teaching, and it's something that I was never taught early on, but something that I've discovered along the way is that if you want to learn something really well, help someone else do it. You can call number 10 service. Helping other people with their art. It will do a lot for you. Again, it goes back to the secret kind of idea or the abundance mentality. But a strange thing will happen when you're teaching. Sometimes when in the explanation process, it's like you tap into a different part of your brain. And what will happen is you will verbalize something in a way that you've never said before. And you're like, where did I learn that? But it's right. It's hard to explain, and it's freaky when it happens. But as you're describing something, it's like connections are firing off in your brain, and you come up with something because of the fact that you were trying to describe something that you already knew was right, but then you make another epiphany on top of that. And those are little gifts that you get when you teach someone else, when you're helping someone else, when you really care about teaching and you're not just vomiting stuff out there. Okay, so that's the top 10. But I have a bonus one. And this is one that I didn't want to put as a number. This is going to go down as the bonus because it's a me thing. I'm not going to say that you can't be a perfect art student without this one. But I think the last one is the perfect art student is also semi-entrepreneurial, or is open to the idea of being entrepreneurial. Now, one of the reasons why I say that is there's a lot of different ways to make money as an artist right now, especially today. There's a million different things going on online, a lot of things going on, and things that we haven't even thought of yet that are going to come out. I think that you need to keep your mind open to ideas and to possibilities, and to give yourself permission to realize that you can become almost anything. You can start almost anything. I'll bet you, and I'm going to go back one more time to Ralph's sketch wallet. He's an artist. If you watch his video, he gives a little bit of a bio. But when he was in school, he never thought he was going to make this. Keep yourself open to ideas. That's another reason why I wanted to share this. I just think it's so cool that it's done by an artist. It's not done by some corporation or something. It's artist to artist. He knows what we want. We're a small group. He's giving us something that we want. Another reason for being entrepreneurial, though, is take some of the Comic Cons, or the cons, the Gen Cons and the Lux Cons and all those different cons out there that you can go to. And again, I've talked about this in my other videos, but I'll just briefly mention it. Again, when you go through and look at each person's offerings, they kind of tend to look the same type of offerings. In fact, you could say, well, Will, you're not really doing anything that amazing, that innovative. And you're absolutely right. I'm making some prints, everybody has prints. So what I'm trying to rely on is the originality of the artwork in the print. But there are products. There's a product that I actually want to take. I don't think I'm going to have time to make it the Salt Lake City Comic Con that I'm going to do in September, but I have an idea. I want to do it. I want to see it through. I don't think I'm going to get it for this time, but I'm always trying to think of something like that. You'll never make as much money as you'll make if you pay yourself, right? And so I think artists should always be thinking along those terms. Don't get caught up in the I'm just a hand that someone can hire. I'm just this person that needs a job. You're capable of so much more. One of the things I think where we've been crippled is that when we went to the public school system, we were never taught to think this way. We were never taught to think that we could be innovators, that we could be entrepreneurs. That was never part of it. In fact, when you go to Harvard Business School, they tell you we're not really creating entrepreneurs. We don't know how to teach entrepreneurs. Nobody does. It's a creativity training. It's almost like a permission thing that people have to have, and they have to fail a ton in order to be successful. But I think it's important to think along those lines and say, yes, I can do this. I can. It is possible for me to do something that I haven't thought about today, but that in a year from now, or 2 or 3 years down the road, I could be doing something really super amazing that no one's thought of before, or I can improve upon something that someone has thought of before. Anyway, that's all I have. Go check out the link for the Kickstarter. And don't subscribe unless you really want to see more stuff like this. And I'll see you on my next video.